So I want to just deal with what I think are four of the most difficult people to deal with. And as a preacher girl, as any kind of Christian, you have to know how to deal with people in love, even if they get on your very last nerve. Hey PGs, welcome to another exciting episode of the PG podcast. It's so good to be here in your AirPods or here on YouTube with you. Thank you for watching this podcast. Please share it. Please like it. If it does something good for you, please make sure and let everybody that you love know that it's happening. All right, today we've got such a fascinating topic. It's about the kind of people that drive you crazy. Yes. How to deal with negative people. Answer this question. What type of person annoys you the most? Or what type of person is most difficult for you to deal with? I want you to write your answer in the comments. I would love to see it. Just see what you think. Because I know what kind of people annoy me the most. And you know what? In life, you're going to deal with them. Today on the podcast, I will tell you how to deal with the most difficult people in your life. If you're interested, stay tuned.
Shout out to the preacher girl. Shout out to the preacher girl.
Scene 5, take 1.
Okay, so I didn't get a chance to read your answers yet, obviously, because this is pre-recorded, but I will go read them. But I can hazard a few guesses. I'm sure a lot of you put in there know-it-alls drive you crazy, negative people drive you crazy, hypocrites drive you crazy, all of those things. So I want to just deal with what I think are four of the most difficult people to deal with. And as a preacher girl, as any kind of Christian, you have to know how to deal with people in love, even if they get on your very last nerve. So let's talk about a few. In fact, the first kind of difficult people that I want to talk about are the dream crushers. This is what I want to call them, the dream crushers. Look like this.
1, take 2. Action.
Okay, so I have the most fantastic idea ever in the planet.
Okay, breathe.
Okay, so I'm gonna plant an organic vegetable garden, and I have all the stuff ready. I have the dirt, the seeds, the yard to do it, and I have the water and everything. And after it's done, I'm gonna go around to the neighbors and I'm gonna give it to them for free, and they're gonna love it so much that they're gonna buy more.
So you're gonna start now?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's really cool, Sharo. I think organics, I love organic vegetables. Oh my gosh, so you have your Miracle Girl and your fertilizer and stuff, right?
No, but I have dirt.
If I were you, I would just like really sit down and think about it, because everybody is doing organics right now. Are you sure you're ready for this kind of work? I'm talking every day. To water it, you're gonna have to wake up early. I'm telling you right now, you can't do all this and be no late sleeper and watch TV and stuff in hours and hours and 10 weeks into making it. But it's a fantastic idea, you know. How do you identify a dream crusher? Dream crushers don't always just bash your dreams into the dirt. No, that's way too aggressive. Most dream crushers act subtly. They give you good advice. They tell you things for your own benefit. Now, I'm in no way trying to tell you ignore good advice, or that everybody that's trying to help you is actually trying to shove you off a cliff. I'm just saying dream crushers sometimes look like your greatest allies, but you've got to be careful. Okay, you know them, you identify them. They're the first ones to point out all of the negative aspects of your idea. They're the first one to tell you, you know, it's a good idea, but. Reminds me of the sermon I preached last night, which I'm going to link right here for you. You can check that out. About Joseph and his brothers. You remember him? He was a dreamer, right? But how do you, as a preacher girl, what if your dream is to do something incredible, to be a missionary, to go like missionary Celia and live in a third world country somewhere and give your life for people? What if you want to provide clean water? What if you want to open a coffee shop? What if you want to be a pastor? You know, all of the things that there are a million people to tell you all the reasons why it was a bad idea. I can remember the day I decided that I was going to do what God called me to do no matter what. And it didn't happen when I was 4. Yes, I knew I was called at 4. But many times over those next 20 years, or, you know, I went through seasons of thinking, do I really want to do this? You know, am I really up for this challenge? Because there was always somebody to tell me all the reasons why I couldn't do this. And there's still guys, there's still preachers, there's still bishops, full denominations that say that I have no right to pastor a church, that women should not pastor. But there was one day I realized, you know what? This is what I'm here for. It's why I'm put on the earth. So how do you, as a Christian or as a woman of God, as a preacher girl, decide no matter what, nobody is going to crush this dream? It's easy. One, you've got to know that your dream is from God. Your dream is from God. I know it sounds so elementary, but honey, if it's just your dream, you're going to give it up. But if it's God's dream for you, you'll chase it till you die. If your dream is from God, then it's worth fighting for. It's absolutely worth fighting for. Two, you figure out why you want what you want. Why is it that this is worth the pursuit? And this is, you know, people put fancy names on it, and some people just call it the why, right? But I'm saying that unless the purpose for your dream is big enough and bold enough in your spirit, it's not gonna work. You're gonna give up on that. And then thirdly, you need to find out all of the people, or at least some of the people who've gone before you, done what you've done, you're wanting to do, and just killed it. That's so important to me. And in my life, that was my godmother. In your life as a preacher girl, I hope I get to be part of that. I hope I get to play some small role in you just killing your dream, getting your dream, going after it, and just blasting out the dream crushers on your way. Because the Bible said there's a crown for those that overcome. The second type of person that is so difficult, at least in my life, for me to deal with are the emotional heavyweights. I call them emotional heavyweights because they are so emotionally draining to you that you can take a little bit at a time, but then after a while, all you do is hide. Now let me show you what it's like. It's like this 10-pound weight that I have here. See? It's just 10 pounds. And 10 pounds, I can do this with it. Well, I can't show you because then I'll be out of the shot. All right, so let's just say I'm doing curls like this with 10 pounds, right? I can do 2. I'm starting to feel it in. Oh, look at my muscles. I got those subs, bro. Yeah. All right. So, you know how many of these I can do? Maybe 7. 10. But if I keep doing this, it's going to fatigue me. My muscles will break. My arm will give out. I just can't keep going. And emotional heavyweights do that to you. You see, 1 curl, it's okay. Come with 2 problems, we can handle it. Come with 3 days straight in a row where something's wrong, maybe that's okay. But every time I see you, it's another curl, eventually you're gonna wear me out. Eventually my arm can't facilitate you. It can't keep you up. And when people that come around you that constantly have an emotional baggage with them, or they're never happy, they're always sour, or you're always guessing, are they in a good mood today or a bad mood today? Are they gonna snap at me today? Are they gonna treat me like trash? Or am I good today? You're not going to want to be in conversation with them. How do you deal with emotional heavyweight?
Hey, Auntie.
Hey, Shug. You good?
I'm fine.
You don't look fine.
Yeah.
Don't even say you're fat.
But I am fat.
Are you-
My hair.
You have the most.
And
We have the same hair. We have the same hair. Shug, behave yourself. Have you been watching YouTube videos again?
Little.
Girl, don't listen to that stuff. You're good. I mean, you're a straight A student. You're cute as can be. You're skinny as anybody's business, and not skinny in all the right places. You're fine. Don't let that junk get in your head. What are you really upset about?
Xavier got a hamster, and that just reminds me of when my hamster died when I was in Disney World. And then after, I had a goldfish, and he died too. It was pink.
One, when they're constantly, every day, every time you meet them, my first line of defense is to just have that really clear heart to heart. Is there anything that makes you happy? When everything goes back to a sordid childhood, or something that happened when you were 6, or an event that they have not been able to get rid of, I ask them, is there anything in your life that brings you joy? And then if there is, I'll say, can we focus on that for a minute? 2, suggest that they get professional help. If you realize that this person is psychologically really strained, maybe suicidal, maybe just depressed, maybe you can't be the one to help them. Maybe friendship is not enough at that point. God gives people the expertise and the education to be able to psychologically heal and help people out of their situations. I will always 100% of the time suggest a Christian psychologist. And the third way I deal with emotional heavyweights is if you feel like that person refuses to change, then you may just have to cut them out of your life. I know it sounds difficult, but if people won't change or even be open to change, then there's nothing that you can do, and what you'll end up doing is carrying heavy weights that slow you down. When the Bible says to cast off weights, sometimes it's relationships. Sometimes it's people that if every time you meet them, you end up feeling worse or feeling depressed or feeling awful about yourself, perhaps just not meeting them as often is a really good idea. For me, and for a lot of people, another very difficult person to deal with are the egotistical people, or people that know it all, or at least think they know it all, right? Have you ever tried to work on a project with somebody and all you were trying to do is be helpful? Egotistical people are very, very difficult to deal with because what egotism does is it causes anybody else in your circle to feel undervalued. Whenever people are in a work environment where their value is not recognized or their worth is undermined, then you don't feel like a contributor. Not only do you undermine that person, are you undermined as an individual, but the whole team is undermined. And when the whole team is undermined, the end result is poorer than it could be. And so egotistical people are difficult to deal with, especially if you know how to do the job. Right? If you work with an egotist or somebody who won't allow you to help or allow you to participate or allow you to shine where you're good, eventually you're going to want to back out. You're going to want to leave it. Again, how do you deal with egotistical people? One, you've got to recognize, is this more important to me than my pride? Really? Because, for instance, if it's in the kingdom, and you have an egotistical person as your boss or as your supervisor or as your ministry partner, if this is for God, then you know the reason why I'm doing this is not to please them, it's to please God. It is to honor God. And therefore, I can handle you. I can put up with you in order to get the job done. If it's for $1, you've got to decide, is your sanity, is your joy worth more? Or is it worth less than putting up with somebody else that does that? You know, you may want to also to find ways around them. There are ways to speak to egotists that actually get them to come up with your idea on their own. It sounds like manipulation, but it really isn't that. It's just causing them to try to see someone else's perspective. For instance, I know nothing about carpentry, right? It's a random thing. Pastor Kurt knows way more than I do about carpentry, but sometimes he takes 10 steps to get to step number 2. And when I look at something, I see a shortcut or I see an easier way to do a very difficult thing. So what I cannot do is say, you know, you should do this, 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 and this, and this. It's a guaranteed way for him not to do anything at all. So what I will do is say, would it even work? I mean, I have no idea, but would it even work to do this way? I mean, is that a thing? And it's not me dumbing me down. It's me giving him an opportunity to see things from a different angle. And if that's going to get the job done more efficiently and in a way that brings me joy, hey, I'll do it. So this is what I'm saying. First, ascertain whether your goal is more important than your pride. And 2, find an easier way. Find a way around a person's ego. It's not always possible, but you can sure try. So none of these pieces of great advice that you're getting will work if the person that you're dealing with, the negative person, is a closed-minded person. Everybody likes to think they have an open mind. I mean, do you? Do you have an open mind? You're like, well, it depends on what it is. You know, you're just saying that because of what I just said. But we all like to think we're open-minded. We're not closed-minded towards other people, are we? We shouldn't be. But when a person is closed-minded, it's very difficult for them to be able to hear suggestions or hear the side of someone else that differs from their opinion. You might say, well, when it comes to faith, I have to be closed-minded. Can I tell you that there are things even in the Christian faith that I have changed my mind about? Absolutely. When I was a child, we couldn't wear pants. I couldn't wear makeup, which I still don't. Just kidding, I do. We couldn't wear jewelry. And the reason why was because girls wasn't supposed to wear men's clothing according to the word. Different teachings and dogmas and different doctrines that came down the pike. Well, all of that has changed, and the same people who taught it to us don't subscribe to it anymore. So, when I grew up and began to search the word for myself, I realized that some of this stuff was a whole lot of legalism and not a whole lot of truth. And so I have changed my perspective, but I had to have an open mind when it came to that, or I would still have a big long bun on my head, which is nothing wrong with a bun. We all love one now and then, and be wearing denim skirts, long ones in the middle of summer. It was very difficult. I will always tell the story that I hiked up Maracas Waterfall in a skirt. Bad idea. Nothing decent about it. And so, what am I saying? I'm saying that closed-minded people are very, very difficult to deal with. And look at what's happening in our country right now. We have the races pitted against each other. We can come to an agreement. We can come to an equal solution. We can come to brotherhood, but not with closed-mindedness. When every side thinks that they're right, nobody wins. When every side refuses to hear the side of someone else, nobody wins. So how do you deal with closed-minded people? How do you deal with someone who refuses to see the other side of the coin or to hear someone else's side of the story? As Christians and preacher girls, I implore you to keep an open mind. You might say, but I don't want people, changing my heart about Jesus. They can't. They can't change your heart about Jesus. Why? Because he is the truth. You might say, but isn't that closed-minded? No, I've read everything. I've read everything from every religious book that's out there. I have friends from every religion and every secular part of life. I have friends who are Jews and Muslims, Hindus, atheists. I have friends who are transvestites and live an alternate gender lifestyle. Absolutely, I do. Do I wish that they would come to Christ? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do I listen to what they have to say? Yes. Yes, I do. Because closed-mindedness cannot ever put you in a position of knowledge. So how do you deal with people who won't listen to you? Because there is a crisis in America. Let me get real clear about that. Everybody wants to be heard, but nobody wants to hear the Christian. It's the truth. Everybody wants to be heard, but nobody wants to give the word of God a voice. So this is what I'll say. If I want you to hear me, if I want you to hear my podcast and hear me pray, then I will listen to what you have to say as well. I will understand you from your perspective as much as I can, but I will always, always go back to the Word of God. So how do you deal with closed-minded people? If you realize that somebody will refuse to change, that talking to them is not going to help, they're not going to listen, then this is the discussion that you need to have, especially if that person is somebody you care about. You say, I realize that you're unwilling to hear both sides of this story. I realize that you're not open to discussion and that no matter what I say, it will not get to you. So we will not talk about this anymore. You might say, well, isn't that conceding? Isn't that giving up? If the relationship is important to you, then you're going to have to make that decision or you will end the relationship. It's the truth. If they love you enough and they say, no, I'll listen, then we can keep talking. If they say, fine, that's fine with me, then you realize it's not going to help. Ladies, especially ladies, we feel like the more we talk, the closer we get to a solution. So we talk and talk while he snores and snores, or decides that he's gonna tune you out, and you think you're getting the silent treatment. Girls, tell me about this. So when guys give you the silent treatment, right? It kills you sometimes. It just kills you. But so you decide that you're going to give them back the silent treatment and they don't notice? Let me throw my pencil. What is that about? That's something that can be cultivated. Where you don't get your affirmations, you don't get your sense of worth from what somebody says or doesn't say. So when they're not ready to talk to you, that's okay. And when they are ready, you're available, right? So that's how you deal with people with a closed mind. You realize that sometimes discussion is not going to be the answer. You make sure that where you're coming from to a closed-minded person, you have your ducks in a row. always, always treat every human with respect. Even if they're different in opinions, even if they're closed-minded, even if they're shut down and they think that they can call Christian names, still treat them with respect. It's difficult sometimes, but it's the way that God wants a preacher girl to be. Now we get to the very final one, the very final negative person, the big kahuna. No matter who you are, it's a hypocrite. Girls, go get a mirror. Because it just so happens that the thing you despise most in others is the thing that you despise most in yourself. Oh my gosh. What is with that hair?
I don't know. It's so frizzy and big.
Oh my God.
What's happening?
Do they not know what these are? They could just, oh my God.
Have they never seen a hair tie before? They could have tied it up at
Oh my
least.
gosh. God forbid my hair ever looks so huge.
Right?
Ugh.
My hair could never.
Is that fake nails?
Oh God.
She's wearing fake nails.
Fake nails.
Press-ons.
I haven't worn press-on since I was like 8. It's just awful.
It's just crazy. Jesus said it this way. He said, you're so busy looking at the speck in your brother's eye, and this time you have a light bulb sticking out of your own eye. If you don't like closed-minded people, you're probably very, very closed-minded. If you can't stand emotional heavyweights, sometimes maybe you are the emotional heavyweight. I'm not saying that's your character, but I'm saying sometimes you act in that character. Therefore, the most difficult person, the most negative people in the world to me are the hypocrites. It's the ones who say, I'm not going to that church because it's full of hypocrites, but, right? So that means I've got to just turn the light on me and to say, Lord, am I doing that? What is a hypocrite? This is so big. I bet you don't, maybe you do, but maybe you don't know this. Do you know what where the word hypocrite comes from? It's the Greek word that means actor. Throw my pen again. The word actor, like the theater, like the movies, it comes from the Greek word that means hypocrite. It means you pretend to be something you're not, or you say something and act in a completely contrary way. And we all hate it, but don't we do it? So at the end of all of this, how do you deal with negative people? The most important piece of advice I can give you is to find those negative aspects in your own life and fix them. And when you're sympathetic and empathetic to your own issues, then you're a little more sympathetic and empathetic to other people that have them. As a preacher, you're going to face it every day. You're going to come face to face with people that annoy the daylights out of you. And then you'll realize, wait a minute, it's just the way I am. It's just the way I am. And you can be so more caring, so more compassionate, so more knowledgeable, and so more people will be so better willing to hear what you have to say when they realize that you're not a know-it-all, that you're not a Debbie Downer, you're not a dream crusher, you know, you're not a negative person, you're not a hypocrite. At least you're trying really hard not to be. So PG, that's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. I hope somehow, some way it helped you. Now, this is what I want you to do. You already put a comment about the kind of person that is the most difficult for you, or the most negative in your life. Would you be so bold as to write down in the comments the part that you see in yourself most of all? Whether it's hypocrisy, whether it's a know-it-all, whichever of the 5 that we talked about today, that if you're closed-minded, you know, unwilling to hear other people's side of the story, whatever it is, can you just write that? And if you want to expound on that a little bit, everybody that puts a comment right now, I'm going to enter you into this week's drawing. I don't know what I'm going to give away yet, but I'm going to oh, I know what I'll give away. I'll give away one of my favorite things. It's a Kylie Jenner matte lipstick. You want it? All right. So put the comments and be sure to like this video. If it meant something to you, please share it on your social media outlets and like it on YouTube as well. I'll catch you in the PG community. God bless you. I love you. And remember that if God calls you, no one can ever uncall you. Mwah. We did it! Oh my God.